grew up in the congregation and you will be familiar to many people, but I want to share a little bit about why we're having this conversation today. So for Anna grew up in the Shir Malo community for the last 20 years, and her passion and dedication to the tenets of Judaism have informed a large part of her career choices today. Through her education and experience, Anna has worked in various sectors, primarily located in California, comprising healthcare, community engagement, and both sides of the criminal justice system, including victim and survivor services and reentry services for previously incarcerated individuals. Anna holds a master's degree in social work with a certificate in global human rights from the University of Pennsylvania and a bachelor's degree in health education with a special award in diversity education from the California State University System from Chico. And recently, Anna started a new job as a program manager for SAY San Diego, where she is leading a program focused on reducing youth substance use in southeastern San Diego area. And then prior to that, she was a reentry services coordinator in charge of developing and implementing housing assistance, workforce development, and mentoring program for a medium-sized nonprofit in the Philadelphia area, which served individuals exiting the prison system. And as some of you may know and have had the joy of working with her recently, Anna has become involved with our Shemesh committee, our Tikkun Olam committee. She leads our listening and learning book club and is one of our congregation's representatives on the Orange County Jewish Council for Refugees. And Danna Creager's background and passion in the intersection of sustainability, food, and racial justice. She currently serves as a development assistant for the Jewish service-based nonprofit program, Repair the World, where she previously served as a food justice fellow. Danna is also co-chair of Hunger Free America's Associates Council, one of her partner organizations from the fellowship experience that aims to tackle hunger on the ground as well as through advocacy. She received a BA in Geography and Environmental Studies and a BA in Political Science from UCLA in 2018, and is working on completing her Master's of Public Administration, her MPA in Environmental Science and Policy from Columbia University, which will be graduating in April. When Danna isn't working on issues environmental and social justice, she participates in a non-professional dance company, cooks many new and delicious foods, and her family has been a part of Shir Hamalot for over 17 years. And if I'm not mistaken, Danna, you are coming to us today from New York City, right?
Correct, yes.
And Anna, you are live with us from Lake Elsinore.
That's right.
Thank you both for joining me this afternoon to talk about Tikkun Olam. I would love for you both to start by talking a little bit in more detail about what your jobs entail right now. So, Anna, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go to Danna.
Sure. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. It's wonderful to be able to share more about my passions with, my spiritual community. So that's wonderful. Right now, I'm the program manager for a project called Project Safeguard at SAY San Diego, and we're really focused on providing prevention work for youth around substance use, specifically alcohol and marijuana for youth ages 9 to 20 in the southeastern San Diego area. And the main things we're focusing on is developing a youth-led coalition where youth can really, focus and advocate around issues they care about. I'm really hoping to engage individuals in the juvenile detention centers and on probation to really make sure that their voices are being heard, and have an advisory board just made up of community members. So everyone kind of has a voice in that. And it's really about focusing on the root causes that contribute to substance use. So I'm really excited to be leading it. It's a new program, and I've only been there about 3 months, and it's amazing. So I'm very excited about it.
Thank you. Well, that's something that we have talked over the years about, and it's something that's a big part of our national conversation right now as well. So, and Danna, what are you doing?
Yeah, so as you stated earlier, I'm currently in grad school. So my position at the moment is a part-time role on Repair the World's development team. So Repair the World is a Jewish nonprofit or rather a nonprofit grounded in Jewish values. If you couldn't tell from the name, Repair the World. And really, its mission is to ground people's engagement in community through service, and specifically not just random acts of service, but long-term commitments to service in your communities. One of the biggest things they've been doing is during this whole pandemic, they launched a brand new initiative called the Jewish Service Alliance, where it's in a lot more cities than the fellowship itself is. And it's a 10-week program for anyone, I believe, from ages 19 to 29. They can serve either virtually or in person, whichever folks feel comfortable with. And it's not just about the service, but it's also about the learning. What is behind? Why are we here? Why do we need to serve? What are the systemic issues that make it a requirement for people to serve in the community right here and right now with so many urgent issues?
And I think what you just touched upon is that particularly at this moment, not that there wasn't a lot of hurt in the world before the pandemic, but I think we're all becoming so much more aware of the pain, of the brokenness of the world. Some of that has been exacerbated by the pandemic, and some of that is coming to light in things that we maybe didn't see before, but were perhaps always there. And because the name of your organization is Repair the World, this gives me an opportunity to very briefly teach about Tikkun Olam, which I think we talk about a lot as a Reform congregation, but just all to give you a background, right? Tikkun Olam literally means healing the world, repairing the world, but it comes originally from the Kabbalists. It's part of our 16th century rabbis who lived in Sfat, and they were exploring the mystical side of things and the spiritual side of things when they thought about Tikkun Olam. It comes from the idea that in creating the world, in making the world manifest, and actually, I think Rabbi Garraway touched on this a little bit in his teaching yesterday, for those of you who are watching, right? In making something, making it exist and manifest in the world, we lose a little bit of that perfection. And so in making the world, there was some damage that had to happen, that God had to do in order to make the world exist. And so for the Kabbalists, part of their theology, part of their belief was that it was our job to help God in repairing the world. And for them, it was through doing mitzvot and through commandments. And I think that that is something that we've carried as Reform Jews as well. And we think about what are our responsibilities, what are our commandments now in order to make the world a little bit better, a little more whole, and participate in that repairing process a little bit. And so what I want to start with by asking both of you is a little bit about your families. If you can tell us a little bit about how you grew up. Was there any sort of talk about Tikkun Olam or social action in your families? How did this start for you all in the home? I should ask somebody to go first. Okay, this time we're going to have Danna go first.
Sure, yeah. So I believe my parents are on the call right now.
I know both of your parents are on the call right now.
But I grew up in a family that...
Watch what you say.
Sorry, what?
I said, watch what you say.
I definitely will. I know I have fact checkers here. No, but in all honesty, I grew up in a family where service, I mean, we didn't really use that term. It was just, there were days where we would go and we'd volunteer, we'd, address needs in the community. I'm very fortunate to have a mom who is just a very generous person and natural caregiver to those she really loves and people in her community. And I really would say that all of that was grounded in actually Jewish practice for me, largely because of Shir HaMa'alot. Not to, do the hard sell or anything, but
this question was coming anyway, so you can talk about it now.
Okay, great. Yeah, one of the earliest memories I have in terms of specifically social action was when there was a program, a speaker program that was bringing in different organizations to talk about different social issues around the world. And one of the groups that was brought in was Jewish World Watch. And I must have been like 8 or 9 years old. And there were some of the Lost Boys from Sudan who came and talked about their book that they had written. And it was extremely eye-opening. It was something, when I was that young, I was very fortunate that I had not engaged in anything remotely near to what these children, at that point they were older, but these children at the time had experienced. It was really, really eye-opening at the time. And that's kind of when I first started having the urge to go beyond just what we did as a family. And I remember I started learning more about different international issues. And yeah, just to keep going at the synagogue, I was social action vice president in the youth group, and it was just very important to me that I knew that I was limited in what I could do based on my age, based on where I lived. But whatever I could do, I wanted to try and do it. I remember as a kid, I don't know if my parents will remember this, when the BP oil spill happened, I spent probably an hour and a half brainstorming how I could actually help. And I can't actually remember what I ended up doing, but it was just extremely important to me. And both because my parents, but also because to me, Judaism and social justice are extremely intertwined.
Thank you. And Anna, how about for you? Was this ever a conversation growing up, or was it part of your experience at the temple?
Yeah, for me growing up, I mean, doing things kind of outside of myself was always a thing. And I think that's my family has a long line of that. More, I learned different parts of, generational social action that I never even knew before. I learned only, in the last year or so. But my parents have always been really amazing and just, always encouraged me to question things, always encouraged me to just be kind and try to do things for others. And, my grandmother, my mom's mom, was bedridden most of my life with countless things. And she was probably my driving force for wanting to do something that supported people in some way. And originally thought that was in nursing. And then I felt like I ended up transitioning and wanting to focus more on, root causes that lead to certain things that could be in nursing or in hospitals. And then I, find out later that my great grandmother, which I might be wrong in that, I'm sure mom can correct in the chat, but she was an advocate and advocating for the Scottsboro boys, to be released from prison. And so it's like tying my roots there. And with the synagogue, and like Danna was saying, we're so lucky in Reform Judaism for Tikkun Olam and Repair the World to be connected, and just in our synagogue too, to question everything and to try to see things in a different way. I mean, I just remember going through confirmation with Rabbi Steinberg, and it was like we had so many discussions, and he's just like, question this, like it might not be exactly what it seems, and just always kind of play with it. And I think that was really a driving force for me to really break out of my bubble. And my parents have always been so supportive of pushing me for growth and just to get out of my comfort zone, and to see things in a different light. And so getting out of my bubble and moving away to Northern California and Philadelphia, I think were just driving forces to get me where I am. I'm sure Danny can feel the same way about moving to New York and all these different wonderful places. So, yeah.
So, and you've both touched on these two really key ideas for Judaism, which is obviously the value of questioning, of not accepting that the way things have been is the way that they always have to be, and asking the why of things, and then tie that in, right? The why, the digging in under the roots and asking how we can learn more about this question, and tying that into chesed, to loving kindness, to the care that we need to have and show for another being, for another person. So I had nothing to do with your raising, so I get to just say, like, we did a great job. So I want to switch, ask a little bit more about, so why these career paths for you? What are you hoping to do with these jobs now? So Anna, why don't you start now?
Well, I know for me, as I've been on my journey of kind of social justice and just kind of feeling like I've awoken to the realities of the world in a lot more ways. And I'm constantly on this journey of learning and unlearning, and really just trying to listen to, marginalized communities and different communities who are so impacted. As I'm doing that, I'm just seeing things that I can do, even in small ways, to make an impact. And I think for me, I find myself feeling as if I was silent for a long time on things because I didn't realize certain things were happening around me. And now that I know, I feel like there's so much I want to be doing about it. And so with the work I'm doing now, I feel like even in a small way, I'm able to impact, making sure that the voices of youth are being heard or listened to. I mean, those voices are there. They've been shouting for a long time, but just haven't really been elevated. So I'm really happy to be able to do that. And, I know it was in this last year that Ahmaud Arbery, a 25-year-old unarmed Black man, was murdered in Georgia by, frankly, two white supremacists. And that was really my turning point after finishing grad school, of coming here and feeling like I need to do something to make an impact. And that's when I reached out to Rabbi Steinberg, and bless him for being so patient with me, because I was so like, I need to do something, please. And he was so open to my idea of starting a book club that really processed big, themes in social justice. And it's allowed me to have this community and connect my passion for social justice with the synagogue and just, my spiritual family, my community, and process through it with other people like that. And I'm sure I'm getting off topic now, but sorta. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Deanna?
Yeah, so I think for me, I'll speak specifically about my graduate program more than my job, because I feel like I've already spoken a lot about Repair the World. The reason why I'm currently in this master's program, was probably multiple reasons, but when I was going into my undergrad, I initially expected to be just a political science international relations major, and I ended up not loving the classes I was in that were on the international relations route, but I really liked this general ed course I took on sustainability in the environment. Thank you, Mom. She encouraged me to take it. She likes to make sure I give her recognition. But I took that class and I was not doing great in it, not doing how I wanted to be doing in it. And it was my favorite class to go to. And I was like, if this is something that is clearly not coming natural to me, it's not easy, but I love it more than these classes that I'm doing really well in and I'm bored out of my mind, that means something. And so I started exploring different things on campus related to sustainability and the environment. I was able to partake for 4 years in an on-campus research program that tackled different elements of sustainability. And my final year, I directed that program for 44 other students. And I really was able to narrow down what aspect of sustainability I was most interested in, because everything is truly tied to sustainability. It's a very broad term. And I ended up taking a class on food and the environment while doing this research program and learning about hydroponics, which is soilless farming, learning about different types of agriculture technology, and et cetera. And I was so fascinated by it. And as somebody who loved trying new foods and loved eating new foods, it was such a great touch point for me. And then as I moved beyond college and I really narrowed down the different things I was interested in, I decided to take this program that I'm in now because of its holistic perspective. It emphasizes environmental ethics, sustainability management, environmental science, environmental policy, and I'm forgetting something else. There are 5 major aspects of sustainability in the environment that it tackles. And within that, we're able to take some electives, and all of my electives, I've been able to focus specifically on food systems. One is, I take one on globalization in food systems. I'm in one now on, it's called Plant Biology, Climate Change, Food Security, and Human Health. And it's really fascinating, especially during a pandemic, to see how food systems are so connected to human health, not just in that the food that you eat actually informs your health, but also the health of the world informs the food system. I'm sure a lot of people saw in the beginning of the pandemic, farms were dumping out milk and produce, just leaving it fallow in the fields, which not only releases greenhouse gas emissions, but it's also a waste. And a lot of people, were not
Hungry.
able to get those food, right? And food pantries now in New York, at least, I know the statistic is something like there's 60% less support, but the reliance on emergency food and complementary food programs is higher than it's been in decades. So it's really kind of a pivotal moment that I'm studying all of this, and it really just drives me even more. And so I'm hoping in this very broad general sense, because I don't know what I'm going to do when I finish my program exactly. My goal is to be in some sort of role that allows me to help change the food system to be more sustainable and equitable.
Thank you. So this was a perfect lead into what is my last question for both of you, which is, what are some of the hurts in the world that you see right now that you would like to be a part of healing, and or that we want to encourage our community to be a part in healing? And so, Danna, I'll invite you to go first, just to keep maybe talking a little bit. Food insecurity is something that we talk a lot about in this community as well, so it's close to our hearts.
Yeah. I was, you asked that question. I was thinking like 100 different things just ran through my mind, because there's so many hurts in the world. There's so many hurts in our communities. And being in New York, I live in Harlem. I see it all around me. But if I want to focus specifically on food security, because I could talk for hours about all the other ones. Food security, I mean, there's a huge, there's a lot of different things that you can do. I mean, a lot of people, the first thing they think of is, donating food to food pantries, things like that, which is really, really great. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying do it at the same time as you advocate on the policy level. Reach out to senators, Congress folks, representatives, in local government that are where you live, because the issue is not, the pantries, they're a really great now solution, but they're just a band-aid on the larger problem, and it really needs to be tackled from a higher up standpoint. The food system is not built to be equitable. It is not built to encourage healthy and affordable grocery stores in all neighborhoods. I'll speak about Harlem specifically, where I live. It was considered a food apartheid, which is, I would say, if you aren't familiar with that word, please go look it up. It's a little bit different from a food desert. But Whole Foods came into Harlem a few years before I moved here. And there's a lot of different opinions at the time, and even now, because so many people in the neighborhood were like, there's not adequate access to fresh produce. So yeah, let's definitely get a Whole Foods in here. And on the other hand, it's Whole Foods is not, the most affordable grocery store. So while it might increase the access for who?
Right.
So, and along with that comes all these other issues of gentrification, et cetera. That's a whole other topic. But yeah, I would say definitely advocating at the local and even state and federal levels, and just staying informed, constantly know what's going on. If you're passionate about food security in your area, like learn which parts of the neighborhood are, have more grocery stores than others, things like that.
Thank you. Anna, I think I'm going to ask a slightly more directed question, which is, so of the things that you are currently involved with, representing the temple or helping out at the temple, what's one thing in particular? What's the one hurt that you want to highlight, and how you want to participate in healing it?
Yeah, so I mean, also like connecting to Danna too, and what you're asking is just everything that Danna's talking about and everything that I'm passionate about, it all intersects, it all connects. We know this, like climate change impacts, food insecurity, impacts the legal system, and, it's all things that contribute especially to harm and hurt on underserved and under-resourced communities. And so for me, I think something specific to, the congregation, or just like Judaism in general, focused on just healing the world is, and my passion of just, people in the legal system, I think is recognizing that there's so much more to the story, like, and really pushing to see how a lack of resources, how trauma, generations of trauma can impact communities and people, and how trauma can contribute to violence, and without contributing to those communities, without providing resources for food, without providing resources for community programs, good education, just like supportive services all around, without fighting climate change, especially in those communities, it's gonna negatively impact us all, around the world. And so really just trying to see the root causes that impact everything. I know I keep saying that, and it's because it is just the thing that it's in everything. There are so many root causes that are underneath the surface, like especially for the legal system. It's not just someone who committed a crime. Let's look at why. Was it a crime of survival? Was it were they living in poverty and just trying to get food? Or, did generations of trauma numb something? There's so much there. And so I think for us also, the synagogue is really making sure we're centering conversations about ways we can bring those voices into our community, bring the voices of diverse voices within those underserved and under-resourced communities into our space, and contribute to the work they're doing on the ground, because it'll positively affect or impact all of us as well if we contribute to that work. So
thank you. So I am hearing, it's a little bit silly to say this, but I'm a fair amount older than both of you. So I can say the comments in particular, everybody is very proud to have been able to learn from you all this afternoon. And I remind you all of our Psalms and Debbie Friedman, right? The youth shall see visions, that we are going to follow in this next generation. Thank you both for chatting with me today. And I want to welcome Rabbi Steinberg for a word before I then welcome Hera Waldman for another word.
thank you.
I'm not sure I can articulate well enough how proud I am of the two of you. I think I speak for your parents to be sure, but for a rabbi to see two people so thoughtful, articulate, and passionate from a faith-based perspective of their Judaism makes the heart full. The Talmud says that I have learned much from my teachers and from my colleagues more than from my teachers, but from my students more than from them all. And that is exactly how I feel about the two of you who have inspired me today. And I thank you for making the end of this weekend the highlight of my weekend. Thank you so much.